July 1969. The world watched in awe as the Saturn V rocket pierced the heavens. It was the crowning achievement of the American dream, a testament to courage, freedom, and Cold War victory. But behind this triumph of liberty lay a secret that the Pentagon hoped would never see the light of day. To beat the Soviet Union to the stars, America had to make a choice that haunts historians to this day. It wasn't just a race of technology. It was a desperate gamble involving men who had once served a very different master. Today, we explore Operation Paperclip, not to diminish the glory of the moon landing, but to understand the staggering price of the 20th century's greatest victory. How far would you go to save the future if it meant hiring the men who nearly destroyed the past? In the 1930s, a secret research facility was born in Peenemünde. Led by a visionary young engineer, Wernher von Braun, this team had one goal: space travel. However, in the grip of the Nazi regime, their dreams were weaponized. The V-2 rocket was born, the world's first man-made object to reach the edge of space. It was a masterpiece of physics, but its purpose was terror. Von Braun's genius was undeniable, yet he found himself trapped in a system that demanded a vengeance weapon, Vergeltungswaffe, to turn the tide of a losing war. The stars were forgotten, only the targets remained. As Allied bombs leveled German factories, the V-2 production moved underground to a place called Mittelbau Dora. This was the dark reality of the Third Reich's military-industrial complex. While von Braun refined his equations, thousands of slave laborers toiled in freezing tunnels. The conditions were inhumane. Historical records show that von Braun visited these tunnels multiple times. This creates the central moral conflict of our story. How much did the scientists know? And in a totalitarian regime, did they have a choice? It is a grim chapter that serves as a reminder that the path to the moon was paved in the deepest shadows of the Earth. Spring 1945. Germany is falling, but a new war is already beginning. The United States and the Soviet Union both realized that German rocket technology was decades ahead of their own. If Stalin captured von Braun's team, the West would be defenseless. U.S. Colonel Holger Toptoy initiated a daring manhunt. He knew that capturing the brains was more important than capturing the territory. In a mountain hideout, von Braun and his engineers made a calculated decision. They would surrender to the Americans. They chose the side of democracy, and America, facing the looming threat of the Iron Curtain, chose to listen. President Harry Truman was clear: no war criminals. But the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, JIA, faced a paradox. The most brilliant minds were often deeply embedded in the Nazi Party. To bypass Truman's directive, intelligence officers began sanitizing the records. A literal paperclip was attached to the folders of the most vital scientists, signaling that their past affiliations should be overlooked for the sake of national security. It was a cold, pragmatic reset of history. Their identities were laundered, and their expertise was officially prioritized over their previous political records. Over 1,600 scientists arrived on American soil. At Fort Bliss, Texas, they were given a strange sort of house arrest. They were enemies yesterday, but assets today. The transition was surreal. Men who had built rockets to destroy London were now teaching American soldiers the secrets of propulsion. They lived in humble barracks, eating American food and learning American customs. For the scientists, it was a second chance. For the US government, it was a secret investment that was about to pay off in the most dramatic way possible. October 1957. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik 1. The Sputnik shock sent tremors through the American heartland. For the first time, Americans felt vulnerable from above. The Cold War had reached a breaking point. The US military had struggled with its own rocket designs, suffering several embarrassing failures on the launch pad. The pressure on the government was immense. The decision was made. The Paperclip team would be given the green light to take the lead. The moral debate was silenced by the roar of national necessity. In 1958, NASA was established as a civilian agency to reclaim the lead in space. Wernher von Braun became the director of the Marshall Space Flight Center. He was no longer a hidden asset. He was becoming the face of American space exploration. He collaborated with Walt Disney to sell the vision of space to the American public. This was a masterclass in public relations. The man who once worked under the Third Reich was now a charming, charismatic visionary telling American children that the stars were within their reach. The Saturn V remains the pinnacle of human engineering. Standing 363 feet tall, it was the vehicle of the gods. Von Braun and his German colleagues, now working alongside thousands of brilliant American engineers, achieved a synergy that changed the world. The Saturn V wasn't just a German design, it was an American miracle forged through a controversial partnership. Every valve, every turbine, and every calculation was a step toward the moon. It was the ultimate proof that out of the darkest chapters of history, something monumental could be built. The secret couldn't stay hidden forever. By the 1980s, the Department of Justice's Office of Special Investigations began looking into the past. Arthur Rudolph, the project manager for the Saturn V and a key paperclip scientist, was confronted with evidence of his involvement in slave labor at Dora. To avoid a trial, he renounced his U.S. citizenship and moved back to Germany. This event sent shockwaves through NASA. It forced the world to acknowledge that the heroes of the moon landing had a history that could not be fully erased by their achievements. Historians today struggle with a haunting question. Was Operation Paperclip justified? If America hadn't hired von Braun, the Soviet Union certainly would have. The technology that took us to the moon was undeniably born in a dark place, but it was used by America to inspire the world. Does the majesty of the Apollo missions wash away the sins of the 1940s? Or does it remind us that human progress is often a messy, complicated, and sometimes heartbreaking endeavor? There is no easy answer, only the cold reality of a world caught between two superpowers. As we look toward Mars, the legacy of Operation Paperclip lives on in every rocket that leaves our atmosphere. We are the inheritors of a complicated history, one where the light of the moon is forever tied to the shadows of the past. America's journey to the stars was not a fairy tale. It was a complex human struggle involving impossible choices and brilliant, flawed men. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the archives of History Telescope. If you value history in all its complexity, subscribe and join our community. The past is never just black and white.